And now for the most unique level in the game. You actually don't see ghost castles in Sonic very much. They're more of a Mario thing, which is weird because Mario is considered more kid-friendly, and yet it's Sonic that rarely does these when Sonic is the more edgy counterpart to Mario. And I actually think Sonic does the creepy atmosphere of a ghost level better. But it is good they at least acknowledge that Shadow was supposed to have died at the end of SA2, because they're like, maybe that's the ghost of Shadow they saw earlier. And I love how, like, that's the one interaction we have between Knuckles and Tails, is Knuckles teases him. Like, he tries to make him scared. Like, but that's it. The cool thing about this level, which is sadly restricted to only this level, is that you invert the tower by running into these switches. And the really cool thing is that it actually changes the music to this really cool inverted theme that is nothing like the actual theme. And it's pretty cool. Scripted sequence screws up. Yeah, I only use the Lightspeed dash on the designated trails. I was screwing around by randomly using the Lightspeed dash when I wasn't supposed to, and I slowed myself down to the point where I got launched by the loop wrong. So yeah, that was my fault. I take responsibility for that. But that's also why that's why scripting in a Sonic game is not bad, because if they scripted the loop better, like in SA2, then it would have been fine. But you needed enough momentum to get through the loop without falling to your death or something. But yeah, this is pretty cool. It gives you, like, you invert the castle, you turn upside down, and that gives you completely different level design. Like, Team Rose doesn't really take advantage of it all that much. Like, literally all you do with the inverted gimmick is you find a switch. The biggest problem with this level for Team Rose is it's hard to find the switches and you need to progress. Like, that's a problem with this level in general, is that there's so many unintuitively hidden switches. And there's a lot of forced combat. But that's mainly a problem with Mystic Mansion. For Hand Castle, there's a lot of areas in it where it's unintuitive trying to figure out how to progress when you first play the game. Oh god, I hate the white things that you walk into. Like the white walls that look like they should just be part of the floor. It looks like you should be able to just walk onto them, but you can't. And the annoying thing is, unlike real walls, when you walk into them, your character automatically turns to the left or right. And so that can screw you over when you're trying to Lightspeed dash trails of rings that are right above the white walls. But yeah, the big problem with this zone is all the forced combat you're expected to do. This is a level where it really starts to get annoying, the combat. Like, even with Team Rose, this is where the shield enemies start to appear that take forever to kill. And I thought I would have been spared by that in easy mode, but apparently not. What's cool about the inverted theme is that it actually picks up from where it left off. What's not cool is that it constantly gets interrupted by the Team Blast cutscene, and it always starts over from the beginning every time you do it. So, while I love this music, I can barely hear it because I'm constantly Team Blasting. It's like the Werehog level music, where you want to hear it, but it keeps getting interrupted, and you can't hear all of it. But yeah. In general, I like this concept of a level. I love the inversion concept. It's like the coolest gimmick we've ever gotten in a Sonic game. But, okay, what is this liquid? This green liquid? It can't be sewerless water because it's a ghost castle. But yeah, the thing about this place is that the torches appear and they create invisible paths. So I didn't actually have to use the infinite flight code to get over here. I could have just walked on an invisible path so that the torches would have led me around. I really hate this. Again, like, why can't this be on the ground? And another problem is that if you pull it instead of push it, or if you push it instead of pull it. Like, if you do the wrong thing with these switches when on the walls above you, then you'll just fall straight down. Why? Why can't you just pull onto it if you're not supposed to pull onto it? And that has no consequences. Sonic's first appearance on PlayStation 2 and Xbox was actually this game. Going multi-platform actually forced them to use an entirely new physics engine for this game. And a lot of people say that it's pretty obvious because the controls are more slippery. Like, see, the controls, I'll admit that they are objectively not as tight as the adventure games, but the level design is wide open enough to compensate for it. Like, I saw a level mod recently of Sonic Heroes Emerald Coast. It took the Emerald Coast level design and put it in Sonic Heroes. And it was absolute shit because it was so narrow, the level design. And with Sonic Heroes controls, that doesn't really work. Like, you're constantly moving a little left and right as you try to move forwards, and it's hard to specifically go exactly where you want. Like, I'll admit the controls are not perfect in this game, but the level design is good enough to compensate for it. Like, you have more wide open spaces. It's not always about going through narrow areas like this. And even there, like, I'll admit the camera's not good here because you can't actually see the ground that your character is walking on, but that's only for a brief moment. Just stay in the flight formation and you'll be fine. Yay, more being forced to beat up enemies to get rid of cages. Why can't we just immediately walk into the inverted switches? And why do they put crates here that you can't do anything with? Like, these crates, you can't actually destroy them. Why can't they just not exist? It feels like a waste of programming. And yeah, it isn't intuitive. Like I hadn't been expected to do this since Casino Park. Like, normally the pulling switches thing is a power type thing. And it's also confusing because the pulling switches are red. So you think that only the power type can interact with them. Like, in general, I feel like the power type is kind of forced arbitrarily to be useful with the forced combat. And, like, there's all sorts of things you can do in the level, like punching flip panels to launch you, and breaking the floor beneath you, and breaking cracked walls. Stuff like that. And gliding, which the flying type could have done. Like, practically everything the power type does, they could have very easily had the speed type and the flying type do it. I guess they thought it would be a lot more appealing in a, like, classic Sonic sense to have all three types be playable rather than just Sonic and Tails, and have it just be like Sonic and Tails game, like Sonic 4 Episode 2, only in 3D. But that would have been a good game too. Yeah, here's the thing. They don't tell you that you have to thundershoot those flip panels. That's why I was so confused. They don't tell you exactly what you're supposed to do there. And again, the camera doesn't show you these things. It doesn't pan upwards, so it doesn't actually... And, like, there's so many times when the characters give you hints, but they're not telling you that you have to thundershoot these things. And a huge problem is that you're so far away from these things that it's kind of bullshit to expect you to thundershoot them to begin with. You have to fly outwards to them. The cool thing about the flight meter is that it actually doesn't run down unless you move. So if you just stay in the air, then you're not going to have the flight meter run down. Which is weird as all hell. I mean, the flight has never worked like that in any other Sonic game. But it is something that you can take advantage of. Yeah, like this is just weird. Why? This is the only instance I could think of in the game where you have to thundershoot 2 flip panels, not just 1. And as you can see, like, it's kind of hard to do it because it's a timing minigame where you have to press B to thundershoot at exactly the right time. And look at this, you're constantly going up and down like a bobbing fish because you can't only be at a certain elevation with the flight. So you're constantly moving up and moving down, and that changes when exactly you need to press the B button to thunder shoot it and hit it. Why can't the thunder shoot home into targets? Why do you have to aim it? Why, like, and why does it spin around when that doesn't actually make it disappear? That's just confusing. Why would they program it to spin around when that doesn't disappear it? And this. It's not exactly intuitive breaking walls in a Sonic game. I'm not exactly used to having to think about whether I can break open a cracked wall and like interact with the landscape in that way. Like, I'm used to breaking crates and stuff, but it's a really good thing that they had that hint there telling me that I could break the wall, because even though it clearly looked cracked, and it was nice enough to have the wall be a lighter shade of gray at that, that doesn't do enough to draw my attention to the fact that I can break it. This is pretty cool. Like, this is like running down the side of a tower. It's like terminal velocity before terminal velocity.
Yes.
Yeah, like that is pretty cool. And like you can jump through rainbow rings as well and avoid spike balls. But both Hanged Castle and Mystic Mansion take way too long. Like, they're just slugfests where you have to fight enemies. Although the weird thing is, I actually preferred Mystic Mansion to Hanged Castle for Team Sonic because it was so much simpler, because its focus was on defeating enemies, and that was it. So while I do hate having to constantly wait through the Team Blast cutscene over and over and over again, at the very least, it doesn't stump me with unintuitive level design like hiding switches. Although I say that, but like I'm running around looking for a switch right now because they hide on me. I don't like the existence of these pumpkin ghosts because they shouldn't have enemies that you can't kill. It especially feels out of place in a Sonic game because, I mean, sure, in Mario you have things that are qualified as enemies that you can't kill. Like, I can think of the fireballs that move around in Super Mario World. But in Sonic, every enemy you can generally kill. So why the hell do they have these pumpkin ghosts that you can't even kill with Team Blast? And they can just wander around and attack you when they run into you. And you wonder, because the game is constantly making you defeat enemies to progress, you wonder if you have to defeat the pumpkin ghosts to progress, but you can't actually attack them. I think they can grab your characters, but I'm not sure. I don't think they've actually done that to me. And yeah, there's the line. Look at all these Eggman robots. But yeah, this level also introduces the Wizrobe enemies that heal the other enemies. But it's actually not that big of a deal because even though I hate enemies that can heal themselves, these guys die so quickly that it really doesn't matter. You can just defeat them before the other enemies and it's fine. I hate this. You can't even change the camera here, just like in the set piece at the end of Lost Jungle. So it's hard to tell when exactly you need to press the A button, and it's so stupid, like, it's completely scripted to stiffly make you fall into the trolley again. Although that's a lot more annoying in Bullet Station, because there, you feel like you're landing on an actual narrow platform that you could just be running down normally. Whereas here, you're landing on a thin trolley track that you clearly would only be able to traverse through with the trolley cart. But yeah, I just find that to be too tense. I really don't like that's the worst part of the level, easily. I also don't like this trial and error switch puzzle, where you have to try to figure out which switch does the thing that lets you progress, but it's not really that big of a deal. It's over with surprisingly quickly. These things suck. These grind rail things. Oh yeah, it's very easy to I don't know if I mentioned it before, but it's easy to accidentally go into first-person view because it's so sensitive if you use the camera stick. You should just... But yeah, the grind rails, they automatically make you turn in 90 degrees when you reach a 90-degree turn. Like, if it goes left ahead of you, then you'll sharply turn left. And that's a huge problem because it can end up really quickly sending you into, like, parts of the rail that will lead you into bottomless pits. And I feel like you move faster on them too. It's not really a problem though if you just fly over them. Like, just keep on jumping off them and flying on them and you'll be fine. Like, that's of course that's part of the mastering of the game, is trying to learn what, like, characters you should be using in what specific situations. That's the challenge of Sonic Heroes. Like, for example, like, people complain about the controls being slippery because their character moves too fast. That's only a problem for Sonic. Of course you're going to want to always play as Sonic because the other characters are too slow, but some people solve the problem of thinking the controls are too slippery for Sonic by mostly just playing as the power type, which I can't understand because, like, I tried that with Team Chaotix, trying to switch things up by only playing as Spectre most of the time, but you're just so unbearably slow. So I don't understand how people can only play this game as the power type most of the time. Sure, the controls are better, but he's just so slow. I just prefer being able to play as Sonic. But the point is, sometimes there are situations in level where using your speed type is going to make you too fast, and that's going to kill you. But part of mastering this game and getting good at it is learning when you should be using the flying type instead of the speed type, so you're less likely to die. Like, I don't think that's the problem with the game. I think it's a problem with wanting to use speed type all the time, which I can understand, but yeah, this is another shitty part. Over 32 times when I didn't grab onto it and pull it. I don't think the camera is good enough for it, and, like, again, you have to be so close to it to grab onto in the first place. Even though, like, the B button prompt shows up early, and I guess this appears too late. But yeah, here's another room where I got stuck. I don't like how, like, they have the exact same inverted switches from Hang Castle, but they just summon enemies. And at one point they also, like, change the level design so that you can progress, like lifting up platforms, making them closer to you, but that's it. I don't think they should use the inversion switches that were established to invert the level to just summon more enemies. It's like Hang Castle's gimmick is too significant and memorable for it to just be wasted by only being used on one level. Like, if you're going to have two levels of the same aesthetic, you might as well give Mystic Mansion its gimmick too. As it stands, the closest Mystic Mansion has to a major gimmick that sets it apart is the trolley sections, which, one, why the hell are there two of these when they weren't fun the first time? And two, like, they've already been done before in other levels. I really, really wanted to just skip the next trolley. Thankfully, it didn't lead you to a trolley. Like, I was waiting because I thought that I was actually flying over an actual trolley track, but it was a grind rail. I guess the grind rails here look like the trolley tracks. I don't really like the theme of Mystic Mansion. Like, I used to think it was pretty cool, but then when I played the Team Chaotix version of the level, I just got really sick of how repetitive it was. Like, it takes too long to get to the good part with the ringing bell, and like when I first played the level, I thought that the music was dynamic. Like, I thought that it changed as you progressed through the level. Like, it became epic when you got to the epic parts. I always like when the characters tell you that you have to triangle jump, because for some reason it's never intuitive to me that you should triangle jump at all. So it's good that they tell me when to do it. Even though they have a sign there. Yeah. Like again, the gameplay is kind of complicated. It can take a while to get used to all the different factors of it. It's not a game that you just pick up and play, like when you're playing it for the first time. It's not as simple as the adventure games. I think that might be part of why its appeal is not as great. Like, people just sort of like cast this game to the wayside after Shadow the Hedgehog and Dark Age of Sonic, and they were just like, oh, this game sucked too. And people like, they just exaggerated how the controls weren't as good as the adventure games. And like, it's depressing because this is still a great game, but because it's not like the adventure games, it's nowadays it's just got a cult following and that's it. Even though this game actually sold amazingly well and even had really good reviews when it first came out. Like, people liked this game when it first came out. I guess people just decided to turn on it. But yeah, I really like this part of the level. Like the whole testing each individual type, your mastery with each type, and how they progress through the level in a platforming way. Like, the power type has a gliding section, the flying type has a flying section where he lands on moving platforms, and the speed type has a section that a lot of people find to be pretty tense, where you use a homing attack chain on pumpkin ghosts that you don't actually destroy when you homing attack them. So that alone to make it tense, but just make sure that you let yourself fall before you actually homing attack onto these things. I never died to this, like, aside from, well, I think I died to it when I replayed the level for the GameCube version once, but I've heard of people who've gotten game overs there, and really? I never really had that much of a problem with it. I can understand it being frustrating to die because that sends you all the way back and there's not enough checkpoints, but I never really had that much of a problem with it. An Unleash style targeting red kill would have been a lot better, but I just like the idea of having like an epic testing of your ability to platform with each type. Like that's pretty cool, and especially how like the speed type section is all blue and the power type section is all red and so on. It looks really pretty.